If you drive east on Highway 78, about 45 miles outside of Atlanta, you will enter Monroe, Georgia, the county seat of Walton County, one of the last towns on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s schedule to visit. King never made that visit. He was assassinated a week earlier.
Precious Lord, please take my hand. Lead me on, let me stand.
The town's history, which played a major contributing role in its conditions in 1968, captured Dr. King's attention shortly before his assassination. In Monroe, as in many southern towns, local whites held on to segregation with a tight grip. The town had been the scene of Georgia's last lynching. That lynching, the Moores Ford incident, placed Walton County in the national spotlight.
Lord, I'm tired, so tired. I'm weak, Lord, I'm weak. I am worn out.
On July 25, 1946, 15 to 20 unmasked men gunned down two black couples during broad daylight in front of eyewitnesses. No one was ever prosecuted for the crimes perpetrated against decorated World War II veteran George Dorsey, his wife Mae Murray Dorsey, Roger Malcolm, and Dorothy Malcolm. President Harry Truman was outraged. He established the first Presidential Commission on Race, integrated the armed forces, and pushed for anti-lynching legislation in response to this lynching. The town was divided along racial lines, with the white population bound by the Code of Silence and the black population bound by the Circle of Fear. The Code of Silence was in place to conceal the identity of those guilty of racially motivated crimes, such as the Moores Ford lynching, while the Circle of Fear kept the black community from talking about such crimes for fear that their lives or those of their family members would be taken. Ironically, breaking the Code of Silence bore the same consequences. The black community found creative ways of coping in the face of these adverse conditions. Among these ways of coping was the expressive culture of the people, which is referred to in this documentary by the metaphor, the voices of blood. It's the voice of those whose innocent blood was shed at the hand of racial violence and social injustice. The voice of blood has been heard for years in the lyrics of our music, the sermons preached, and the prayers prayed in our churches. When the circle of fear was pierced, the voice of blood could be heard in the stories of Walton County residents as they recounted their memories of July 25, 1946. Reverend Castell Avery recounted his memories at the Moores Ford Memorial Service in May 1998. This story alludes to unspoken but common practices during the Jim Crow era, where workers were kept busy in the fields while their employers enjoyed liberties with the female members of their households.
In 1946, when this happened, I was 20 years old. I just married that March, the 31st, and this happened in July. And I was picking tomatoes from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I was sharecropping with a man, and I had told him that there wasn't any tomatoes in the field. But we went and got a gallon. We was out there about 5 or 6 hours. We picked a gallon of tomatoes, and we brought it back. And it took me a long time to wonder why that I was in the field picking tomatoes when there was just a few.
The voice of blood can be heard in Welborn Victor Jenkins' 1946 narrative entitled The Incident at Monroe, a Requiem for the Victims of July 25, 1946.
Goodbye, Dorothy. You and Willie Mae and George, the soldier boy, and Roger. God, in his tender mercy, bring comfort to your unhappy souls. Yon rude bridge, this sequestering grove, the frightened birds on high, will be the last earthly scene upon which your troubled eye will rest. The murmuring stream at the shoals above the bridge, nature's perpetual requiem for you, will be the last sound that will fall upon your tortured, youthful ears. No doubt your ardent pleas for mercy would have melted hearts of stone. No doubt those same pietous pleas for mercy will torment the soul of many a man to the very last moment of his life. But we salute you, children. We, your people, the American Negro people, we salute you with enthusiasm and high ceremony. Not only that you've become a bona fide world sensation and thereby eligible to an important footnote on a page of our national history, but when you walked single file over the embers of group passion to be crucified side by side upon a flaming cross of race hatred, you carried a cause before Earth's highest tribunals and knocked at the door of the conscience of mankind. The 60 shots, or was it 75, that drilled your helpless bodies, well, they were heard all the way across the river bridge in adjacent Oconee County. In full view of any and all who might be watching at the bridge, could either of you children there, who are now so soon to die, correctly explain what the historical significance of a word like martyr is? You ever see that word in a spelling book or any sort of a dictionary? Could you illustrate by apt example the very real meaning and use? You do not know, so you cannot answer. You have been such happy, carefree children, so much unconcerned with the literary need for these academic and rather somber expressions. Dorothy, Willie Mae, George the soldier boy, Roger. At least 3 of you were guilty of no offense whatsoever, save that of your accursed identity with an accursed race. Yes, I say accursed because one of you, it was you, wasn't it, George Dorsey, had just returned from honorable service overseas, where in Africa and Italy, along with many others of your group, had stopped enemy bullets which were being aimed at the very hearts of those who have now overpowered and dispatched you. This is the day of decision. America has a date with destiny. This country can wisely choose to lead the darker races along the path to progress for 1,000 years to come, or by a continuation of such performances as this lurid incident at the bridge.
A strong legacy of racial violence permeated Walton County culture by the 1960s, resulting in not only segregation, but also poor living conditions, substandard education, and widespread apathy and despair. The Freedom Riders of the 60s and the efforts of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. resonated by this time with activists such as Clinton Sorrells in Monroe and Bobby Howard in nearby Social Circle. It was this activism which led Rich Russ to seek out Bobby in 1997 for the purpose of discussion of forming a group to memorialize the victims of the Morris Ford Massacre. A few other citizens from Walton and Oconee counties joined them to form the Multiracial Committee that same year. Since its formation, the group has held a variety of programs and events working for cultural healing, racial harmony, and social justice through education and community action.
Now, I'm here because it's just good healing. Not that There's not all kind of ways to heal. It's just, this has just been a really good healing thing. And it's community effort, it's white and black, yet all together, it's just love.
It's an important project. It's an important memorial to the several thousands of persons that were killed by mobs in the South.
Okay, when we finish, this is what everybody's going to see. All the unmarked graves will have a cross on them, and we'll paint them all white.
The whole story of Moores Ford did not end when these people were murdered. It didn't end because you're sitting out there today. And what you do out here today in the cemetery and in this church is just as much a part of the history of Moores Ford as the murders were.
The Moores Ford Memorial Committee members tell the story every chance we get. It was suppressed for so long, we want it to never be forgotten.
There's a quote by Elie Wiesel that says, "We become the stories that we tell." It was important for students to learn about the power of storytelling through the visual narrative through art, because in order to tell the story, you must not forget, suppress, or deny the story. To do so would only add to the pain of those that were killed. Students learned about two main elements of Monroe. Again, they learned about the lynching and also the story of resistance and the development of the Memorial Committee. I felt strongly about doing a student project that involved art because once I had visited the Without Sanctuary lynching photography exhibit, I remembered an early childhood memory. When I was in first grade, I went to a Jewish day school, and I remember turning the corner and seeing a black and white image of emaciated and unclothed dead bodies piled on top of each other. Their closed eyes and mouths seemed to express feelings of horror. Growing up in a Jewish community, this was the first of many Holocaust images that I saw. But I remember my first childlike response because it was the same exact response when I entered the lynching exhibit. First, I wanted to cover the bodies with blankets, providing them some form of comfort in their painful and exposed manner. And in the second response, I wanted to learn everything about the people in the photo to understand fully what had happened and why this had happened. Yet the lynching photographs are significantly different from the Holocaust images because the perpetrators and the bystanders are posing right next to the victim in the act of violence. This adds another challenge and adds many more questions. How can we understand all those portrayed in the photo? What happened before, during, and after what we see in the photo frame? Each image I saw, I wondered, who was it that was killed? Who were the people who were committing these public murders, and why?
Why did they have to be killed? I mean, why didn't they just cut him back or leave him alone?
And, I mean, it's sad to me, and I'm kind of mad because I wasn't taught like anything about this in school. It's sad.
They should teach about it because it's very important. If they could teach about Martin Luther King, they could teach about the Moores Ford lynching.
I was surprised to know that my own Georgia history teacher didn't know about something that happened during either her parents' time or her time.
Students also got a chance to learn the value of living history. They had a chance to meet and interact with people from the Moores Ford Memorial Committee like Lynn Camp, Bobby Howard, and Representative Tyrone Brooks. All of those people who are actively connected to the continued development of the story.
So what you're doing today is very important. I'm interested in what you're doing more than you should be interested in me, actually. But when I was your age, I was 15 when I started working as a volunteer in the NAACP.